Nolite ludere malum charta.
Value Vampires, a team that has littered the European Levia leaderboards with a second place in Spain and a fourth place in German nationals. As a team, they took the dive to pick up Levia only recently, so let's learn the hows and whys from some of the best in the world. Dale, my Deadwood Rumblers, because today is truly exciting. Because what's better than a 10th place Levia from US Nats? That's right, a second place Levia, a fourth place Levia, and one of the masterminds behind the deck that these people took to incredible placements all across the world. And it's an interesting story because these guys are actually not Levia one tricks from day one. So there's a lot to dig in here. And I'm really, really excited to kind of peek behind the curtain of what this story is. So Max, Ilias, Laurin, thank you for joining me. How y'all doing?
Hi guys, I'm Max. I have been part of the Value Vampires core team for quite some time now. I think like 2 years, maybe something like that. I've competed in a lot of tournaments, both at the Pro Tour level as well as below. And yeah, just my most recent result was top 2 at Spanish Nationals with this Levia deck that you're about to see. And my other best results were the previous 2 years where I actually won the Spanish Nationals.
As a German.
This time. As a German, yeah. They were very pissed about it. But like, unfortunately, this time I didn't quite get there. But it is what it is.
It is what it is. Don't blame Levia for that, all right? It wasn't her fault.
It was actually Elias's fault, but we'll get to that.
Hey, I'm Ilias Karamanis. I'm like the unofficial leader of the Value Vampires. And yeah, I've just finished third, fourth place in German Nationals. And I've brought Levia to 2 tournaments before, PTLA and Calling Warsaw. Calling Warsaw was also quite decent. PTLA was top 64.
Yeah. Hey guys, I'm Laurin. I've been with the Value Vampires since September last year, or last Nationals rather. And yeah, I've been playing Levia since Heavy Hitters, and I'm really excited to talk to you about the deck today.
So how'd this actually kind of start as you approach this Nationals metagame? What was that initial decision to really look into Levia and treat her like a real deck, Ilias?
So I think this all started. Laurin was the first to play this, and he convinced me basically to take it to PTLA. And what really got me excited about the deck was that sideboard plan that I had at the time with the Balance of Justice and Tunic stuff. Mm-hmm. And like in this Draw My KO metagame and stuff, that's where we picked it up. And like basically since then for Calling Warsaw and now with the introduction of Shadowrealm Horror, right? Also to the net seasons, we stuck with her.
Yeah, so this is basically kind of what led me to bring the deck to Nationals. So I already knew that the deck was strong. I had it on my radar because like both Laurin and Ilias were playing it a lot, and obviously also trusted it enough to bring it to PT and do really well there. And when Part the Mistware came out, I was initially focused on Enigma. But then ended up realizing that the Zen matchup is just completely unplayable. And so I was looking for a deck to fall back on. And since I already knew that there was a lot of experience in our team, and Levia in particular had just, like, I knew she was strong before, and now with the new set, she had gotten like a really, really, really very powerful card as an addition. And so that kind of led me to then decide on bringing that deck to my Nationals.
Right, so there's obvious power in the cards available to us now, but is any part of picking Levia just fueled by this like dark horse type of pick? Like, is that an advantage you think you can really gain out of picking Levia for a tournament?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. A lot of people you sit across from just don't really know what the deck is doing and where its power comes from, and yeah, it's definitely an advantage you can gain some spots, especially in terms of flipping and the power spike you get from that. And a lot of people, I think, are surprised by the stuff the deck is doing. So I'd say yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I've had matches where people I flipped with Carrion Husk still up, and they were ready to call the judge, wanting me to destroy the Carrion Husk. I'm like, no, that's not how this works, guys.
So before we jump into the deck list itself, Laurin, you were kind of the one that initially built this. So take us on that first journey of where it struck you to really dig into Levia.
So it basically all started when Heavy Hitters released, and everyone was talking about KO, and I was like, I think there's maybe even a stronger brute in the meta with all these new cards. And so I really focused on the deck, tried out the new cards, and was just feeling really comfortable with the deck and its power level. Just tried it against everyone and all the different matchups, and it just felt really convincing in that meta especially. And when Shadowrealm Horror was released, we were all like, whoa, this card is insane, and the deck is so good already. And we were just like, freaking out what else could happen now that we got this new powerful tool. And so in terms of the new list, after Shadowrealm Horror was released, we just really focused on abusing the power of that card. And I think that's what we achieved with the new list we brought to Nationals. And yeah, it's been working really well.
And we're going to take a look at the deck itself that actually kind of brought this all to bear with really Max, like you specifically getting second place at Spanish Nationals with this deck. Give us kind of a top level breakdown of what you're able to do with this list.
Well, really, I think the thing that the hero does best is just have incredible numbers. Just once, I think there's like a little bit of a kind of like building phase, which usually takes like one turn or sometimes 2 turns, where you need to fill up a bit your graveyard. But then once you have like the material available, you just start presenting pretty ridiculous numbers all across the board. I think another thing that has really impressed me with this is that the amount of power cards that you have. So we know that, for example, KO really wants to draw Blood Rush Bellow, and Zen wants to draw Out of War. Well, it turns out in this deck you have both of those, and you also have Shadowrealm Horror, and all 3 of those cards really feel like you get a huge power spike on that turn when you play them. And I've had this many times when I was testing, playing Enigma myself, testing against Ilias or Laurin internally, where I was like down to like 12 life or whatever. And I was like, oh my God, every turn they throw this much stuff at me. I'm going to look through like their graveyard and their banish and like, okay, they used like this card and that card. And then I'm like, hold on, they still have like 5 of their power cards left in the deck. What's happening? So, yeah, there's just you don't really run out of gas unless you flip with a high amount of blood debt, of course, and then you can kind of mill yourself. But other than that, if people try to just damage race you, they will usually find out quite quickly that it's not really a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really think kind of looking at this list comparatively to what Levias have had success with in the past, you guys definitely, you added a little bit of juice here and there that has honestly opened my eyes. I mean, I was running Blue Clash of Agility as a one of in my like one of Levia list. You guys went all in on a playset of that card and went back to the old tech of when Levia didn't even have a demi hero, when she was so bad that the only thing she could do was really play Blood Rush. Ivophidia was playable. And you guys have like gone back to that. And I want to hear specifically, because otherwise, like a Levia core is a Levia core, but these tech cards in particular must have a story. So what is the Clash of Agility? What is this card?
I just think it's one of the best blues in the deck. Like, I think Convald, I mean, the other one-offs that are usually in these decks are like, maybe you run an Endless More Blue, maybe you run a Convulsions, I don't know what else you could run. Like there's some options like that, but I think in a meta game where Zen is doing 50 damage a turn and where games are really fast and it's just not good enough. Like you don't really like. I looked at my play stats at the end. Like I never really played Convulsions. I never really played Endless Small Blue. It's like it doesn't really happen. So I just block with it or I pitch it. So I might as well get an extra effect out of blocking. And Clash of Agility is just, it's really good. If you block for 3 and you get an agility token, that's fucking nuts.
There was kind of like a late addition. We had 2 for a long time, and then, as Ilias said, we kind of looked at the stats of the cards that we end up playing out, and then we ended up cutting like the one-off conversions that we had for the third copy. And I think in this meta game, as Ilias said, it's just a good card. It's also really nice against Azalea in a lot of spots. Where like sometimes she just throws an arrow that presents like like Arsenal Disruption, and that's about it, damage, and then the extra agility token, you usually win the clash against her, and then the extra action point is really helpful there.
Oh, I think it's really, really smart. And also, one thing that I noticed when I was looking at your list, trying to figure out, how ratios differ. One thing that swapping Convulsions completely out of the deck has done, with the addition of like Diabolic in the blue base and Clash of Agility in the blue base, is that it's like nigh impossible for you guys to have non-functioning Art of War hands, which is actually still a failure state in Levia when you put your blue base towards these like more second cycle like tech blues, Convulsions namely. By just not doing that, you've opened up another avenue of the deck, which is making sure Art of War like has these banished targets. The other thing, though, is bringing back Eye of Ophidia. And I don't even know if you guys think of it as bringing back Eye, because for you guys, it's
I didn't know it existed before.
Right. But why include it in this metagame specifically, or in what Levia is trying to do, especially alongside kind of one of these other fears that people have with Levia, which is clumping non-blocks, which we do still have in this kind of deck with the Diabolics, with obviously Deadwoods always being included, and now Eye of Ophidia. At least not next to Reckless, but what is this card really doing?
It basically originated from looking for like a blue flex card. Like we needed an extra blue and we were looking into everything and we couldn't find anything else. And then we were like, are we crazy enough to try out Eye of Ophidia? In theory, it should be really good because like it has the obvious Art of War Blood Rush synergies to sculpt your draws from those, but also like in a deck like Levia, where you are really dependent on sometimes finding these banishing cards, the Turn of Blood Dead and stuff. It just has so much synergy with the deck that we just wanted to try it out, and it just has been overperforming for, I think I can speak for all of us all the way. Just almost never felt bad drawing it, and just the advantage you sometimes gain from it is just insane, to be honest.
Also, I think there is like this is like the worst meta game in Flesh and Blood for blocking. Like nobody wants to block anymore. It's like completely fallen out of favor. You don't want to block into Zen. You like maybe want to block into Azalea, but like the rest, Enigma, like are you blocking Enigma attacks? No, you're not. Like you're just not blocking. You don't want to block Nu really because she got over the top anyway, and then you look like an idiot. It's not worth it. You just want extra effects if you're pitching that card 95% of the time anyway. You just want the extra effect.
Yeah, I like that mindset, because now you're looking at specifically kind of these blue additions that are making me pause. They fit in that exactly what you're saying, which is if you do have to block, might as well have upside.
Yeah. Exactly.
If you're not blocking and only pitching your blues, might as well have upside, right? So that's definitely the trend here. It's just really smart deck building. So I think the blue base in particular is just what absolutely stands out to this list first and foremost. But the other thing is kind of this heavier inclusion of non-blood debt attacks. Not only is it a playset of CNC, a playset of Swing Big, you're also teching Amnesia, which I would assume is to the Zen meta. How does that affect your kind of overall game plan with this deck?
It's tough to say. I think the part of the reason to cut some banish attacks is that horror is quite expensive on the grave as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like you sometimes want to do horror into another banish from banish, like banish 6 cards basically with that.
Yeah, I think it's also comes back a bit to the nature of the metagame being like quite fast and quite aggressive, where I think you do end up in like these second cycle situations very rarely. And in general, the way that you end up turning off Blood Debt in an ideal situation is by flipping anyways. And especially like if you have a bit of a slower game, then you can usually sculpt it better, put yourself in the position where you flip when you want to. And then you never have to worry about like, oh, I might die to Blood Debt because you have like you flipped into Plasma Fed anyways. And then for the fast matchups, you end up in many situations, like against Zen, you usually, or like very often, you never flip you never flip, and you have like 1 Blood Debt by the time the game ends because it's just so fast. But against other decks that are kind of like where you are like playing very aggressive, like Enigma, Azalea, you do usually you're able to kind of like set it up where you have like a bit of Blood Debt, but not too much, and then. Yeah, you don't really have the need to kind of like continuously turn off Blood Debt with these banishing attacks, and you get to play like these just more powerful generic attacks because they're disruptive, or like Swing Big is a 2 for 8. Like, come on, that's insane. Like why would you not play 3 of that card? Is I think that is something that I'm very happy with, that we get to do that, especially then if you do it together with horror. You have situations where you can horror and then play Swing Big from banish. Maybe even like weave in a claw if you have like an action point for some reason, or another attack. So yeah, that's just kind of like why I think it's not that necessary to play that many Blood Debt like banishing cards in this meta, and especially like in a build like this, which was really focused on maximizing the horror. So at least the way that I have been playing it, I have to say that I'm also like the pilot with the least experience, is that if I can make it so that we're trading damage, then I'm super happy. Mm-hmm. Like I will happily take damage in order to deal damage, because if I can get in a situation where we both at like around, or like my opponent is like at 20-ish, and I get to present a big attack and then go to 13 and flip with like 5 Blood Debt cards or something like that, I feel like I'm winning so hard at that point, Yeah. So in that sense, I really actually kind of like taking damage in the early game, because I actually want to at some point take Blood Debt damage and flip. So I kind of want to try and get both of us like low to like a low life total as fast as possible. And when it comes to Enigma, I think it is a bit dependent on the game. Like sometimes it can go in a way where you can't do that, but I feel like a lot of time it is quite predictable how much she will attack you, and also she usually doesn't attack you for that much, even on her like big turns. And so that kind of lets you orchestrate the game state where you can flip fairly safely. And don't have to worry about like blocking out with everything and then taking still damage and then taking Blood Debt or whatever, or rather like controlling a bit of like when it's going to happen, and not have it happen too late, because once you had like 8 or 9 and you flip, then you're gonna just mill out, right? So it's a bit of like it's a mini game within the game, but I think you have a good amount of control over that. So.
No, for sure. I think it just proves once again how smart you guys have built this deck.
I think the number of Blood Debt cards in the and how it interacts with the flip, it's like it's a function of how much life does your opponent have. Like if your opponent is at 5, I'm happy to flip with 13 Blood Debt cards and mill in two in like two rounds. It's fine. Like in 2 turns, it's not a problem. It's like if there are 20 and I'm flicking with 10 Blood Debt, yes, I'm gonna mill out and die. But so it's like all like the ideal game plan would be to just put a lot of pressure on, get them low, and then it doesn't matter if you flip with 10 Blood Debt. Like you don't need your deck. You just need a couple of turns to play these cards from banish and some supporting cards, and then you're fine. And that's why against Enigma, for example, we have this Gambler's Gloves plan. plan where we roll spam them. Like we present a lot of stuff, we keep on rolling, we find a good turn to a spoiled skull. We make sure we always have the ability to kill a Mirror guy when it comes up. I think that's how they win the game. And then you're fine. Then the matchup is just pretty free, I think. If you're, unless things go horrible, maybe. And they do run more on hits now as well. Like they run command and some of them even run pummel and stuff. But we still came to the conclusion that like this going maximum output and like no husk, no blocking cards, basically going maximum output and guaranteeing that Mirror guy is always gonna die is like the most important thing.
Interesting. So this is another difference that you guys are playing into, and I saw it happen on stream quite a bit as well, which is still rolling for scab skins quite a bit. Granted, with Gambler's Gloves, you at least have that safety net. But is that something in general you're just very comfortable with? Absolutely taking the risk, even playing into situations where keeping cards in expectation of a Scabson's flip versus only swinging when it makes sense, where, you might as well swing for a claw because you have 2 resources anyway. How are you making those kind of decisions as Levia when there's this risk of, if you roll ones, you potentially self-inflict damage, right?
Scabskin, much hated card, I understand, yeah. But it is one of the most interesting cards in Flesh and Blood, if you ask me. Because it presents the player with some of the hardest decisions in the game. Like the roll, whether or not to roll Scabskin this turn decision can be quite hard. But in the end, I think there is a lot of spots where it's very, very worth it. And that's why there's like no hoofs in the main, or like it's just volcano. Like hoofs is also more limiting, right? I can only hoofs when I have banished, but like I can, when I might have 3 cards in hand, command Shadowpete in the blue, I can roll from neutral and from behind to make that happen. And if I miss, I guess, okay, I put it in Arsenal. If I roll a 1, yeah, I guess I might lose the game. Maybe I have to roll more later and roll some 6s or some disgusting outcomes in the future. But it's, it's just you're trying to win a tournament here, you need to take some risks. And it's often to roll, I think. That's just...
No, I love what
you're strong.
You're trying to win a tournament, guys. Like, come on.
Yeah,
obviously, bring up that variance dial and just
fear is the mind killer.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, you have to take some risks. It's I think it's worth really thinking about the game state at all times in Flash and when playing Levia. Like that's the most important thing. Like, how are you actually winning that game? And we're gonna later on, I think we're gonna see a clip where I show how this is done. Like even when you have 1% outs, like there is always an out in Levia. It's just hard to find, and you should be in the early game when you're like slightly losing, like it's already time to make up the difference, to take those chances and get back in the game. And Scabskins, it's disgusting. It's like one of the most broken cards in the game, I think. Like, what's this, a 3-block equipment that says sometimes a lost game is a won game? Like, that's not...
Sometimes a 1 game is a lost game.
And sometimes a 1 game is a lost game,
Yeah, but then you shouldn't have rolled.
Then you maybe shouldn't have rolled, yeah.
Darn right.
So that's the point. It's like that's the thing. It's like it's about identifying when you're winning enough that you don't have to roll. Right? So basically you're asking yourself the question, do I have the luxury not to roll?
Yeah, exactly.
That is the question that you should ask yourself every turn. And if the answer is no, then you just roll. It is what it is. Like, you can't be scared, That's you can't play a brute hero. You can't pick up this hero if you're scared of variance. But you will get rewarded too, You will get punished, but it is what it is. But the thing is, like, if rolling was correct, okay, then you were losing anyways, even if you don't roll. So you might as well roll. And then the other point is, imagine giving up 2 points of block for the illusion of control. Like, that sounds insane to me.
Oh, like, I don't know if I fully agree, though, guys. I think right now Levia is strong enough that you can have a bad turn cycle without just assuming that it means the game was over, though. In the past, that might not have been true. In the past, what you're saying of, oh man, I'm behind, I have to hit the scabs button to be alive at all in this game, isn't exactly where Levia falls right now, because you can just hit on a Shadowrealm Horror, and then that launches you ahead a similar way as Scabskins would. Or you can like just randomly spike Beast Within Bloodrush, that kind of thing. Like there are ways that the deck already can bail you. And I personally have played so many tournaments where even what you're saying of when you're behind, you do just have to try, doesn't work out for me as the Levia player, right? And then I'm haunted by the feeling of, well, hold up a second, would my deck have bailed me out? And I really think nowadays the deck bails you out more if you just let the game be longer rather than having it be shorter by a turn cycle or two because of what a Scabskins result might have done. You can still very much play the Levia game. So, but hey, fear's the mind killer, as you said.
Look,
maybe
there's only one bad result, though. Yeah, there's only the one.
You're right.
Yeah, I mean, there's only one.
The main thing though is that like if that's, you can always choose not to roll. Like not rolling is always an option, right?
Yes.
The only question is, should you be running a pair of boots that blocks 2 less? But in this, like once you play with Shadowrealm Horror, having like a random boots in your graveyard is actually a downside oftentimes. So
there's another part of variance in this deck that actually is surprising to me as well, and that is you guys tend to run basically an extra playset, if not more, of reds than I know I personally have become comfortable with in Levia. And this could also just be like a stats thing that freaks me out. But when you're running 25 reds, for example, it's putting you at a 3% to draw quad reds. Whereas if you drop that by even a playset, you go down to just a 1%er to draw 4 reds. And one of the scariest things that can happen to a Levia player is drawing all reds in a game that's very tight. Because more than anything, that feels like a loss beyond a Scabskins outcome, is you've just done something in deck building where you've given yourself these draw sequences that just do not work for you. So I know for me, I really try to fight back against including too many reds in the deck, but maybe what I call too many isn't realistic because you guys obviously are comfortable and have the results to go up to 25. So is that something you ever played with? Less reds, more reds, anything like that?
I mean, I think I agree that it's a lot and that it's risky, but I think where we disagree is like, I agree that Levia is very powerful, but I think just the Zen deck, man, it's so fucking sick. Like, and we really try to beat it here, like with the amnesias and with the commands, and still you don't really get the win percentage that high. So
Okay, so you talk about the struggles of Levia into Zen, but what are you doing with this build specifically that's giving you that even 40%er?
Yeah, I mean, I think running this high number of amnesia / command to then recycle with the horror, like get one engrave early, and then you want to send the horror really early where you have like only 6s, and just recycle it. Maybe throw in a roll as well and go like 2-cost attack, horror, command, boom, boom, boom.
Yep.
Like this is really the stuff that wins games into Zen. So you're actually trying to pull it off. Like I'm not joking with the roll, by the way.
No, I was actually just about to ask, because obviously that's off curve. You're talking about spending 4 resources. It's not off curve if you just hit the scabs button, right?
Yeah, if you hit the scabs button, and I'm not talking about weaving in a claw. I'm saying swing big, break the chain. It's actually only the 3rd card in the graveyard. Then you play the horror, guarantee the command, and then the command, something like that.
Ooh,
like that's the type of juice we're talking to beat that stupid deck.
I also noticed that into your Zen matchup, you're taking Savage Sash. I haven't gone through all your matchups here, but it's cropped up a couple times. Are you using Savage Sash just basically to kind of just be the aggressor at all times versus protecting your own life versus hit effects? Is it the graveyard fill aspect? Is it a specific broken combo line you're looking for? Kind of what's the signifier for you to play Sash?
I'd say the idea first came from the warrior matchup in the heavy hitters meta, where we always felt like we often don't really get the maximum value out of our husk. And we just wanted to ensure to really use an equipment that just gives us the maximum amount of value at all times, and to really push these these high damage spike turns, and that's where we basically use the chest. I think it's mainly used in the warrior matchup, where you need to push the excess amount of damage in these grindy games, but also in the really tough race matchups like Zen, but also against decks like Enigma, where we need to focus on always having an out to present a threat to their board. And this is how we've approached the equipment choice in terms of the chess piece.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I absolutely love when you get away with some of the sideboards here, like when you get to run Spoiled Skull in combination with Savage Sash.
Yep.
It really feels like you're the best toolbox deck in the game.
Yep.
For sure.
For sure.
So I love seeing that you guys have played into that. But cool. I think that, I mean, this deck really, it blows my mind. And it's minute changes, honestly. It's like maybe 5 cards total that have been mixed around. But even hearing you all articulate what that's doing to the game plan and some of the risks you're playing into kind of proves that Levia just has so much play. There's so many differences you can make with the deck because I think, Max, you mentioned it before. As you sit down, there's different game plans you can enact with the Demi Hero alone, and also with how you use scab skins, also with how you're deciding Savage Sash versus Carrion Husk in a matchup where it's close. Like, it's just such an intricate deck, and I hope you all enjoyed playing her this season, if not for many seasons to come. Do you think she's potentially your Amsterdam pick? Can you say?
No, I mean, I think she's like very strong. Like, you have one. I mean, I'm personally somebody who also doesn't mind the new matchup that much, just losing the semis and nets, by the way. But it's still like, I don't think it's that bad. And so where does it leave you? Basically, when you bring Levia, you have like one matchup that's below 40%.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that bad. In Flesh and Blood seems to be a game where there's almost never a meta game with a hero that's more than 30% of the share. So it's like a perfectly reasonable thing to say, I'm still going to bring Levia.
Awesome.
But then again, when the winner's meta game is even more than, I don't know, we'll have to see.
Yeah, okay, that's a great point. I would not put it past any of you to be in that winner's metagame, and we are looking at Zen absolutely dominating the national season so far. Well, I know I'll be watching from the sidelines, streaming the darn thing, so hopefully I catch one of you at the top tables. That'd be super exciting. But speaking of coverage that's happened so far, we're going to pivot into going over some of the plays that we caught on stream from you guys' Nats season, so let's take a look. Yeah, all right, so we're taking a look now. Ilias, this was part of your run to 4th place at German Nationals. And there's something pretty interesting that's about to come up. So where were you at in this game?
So it's round 10. I need to win 1 game that day. And it's like, I'm pretty far behind, honestly. Like, I didn't interact much with the Zen. I didn't do anything broken yet. And I'm like already starting to go into what I call the maniac mode, you know, where you really play aggressively for the outs and stuff. And we will see what happens this turn where I take the flashback. And I think I get unlucky, but turns out I just got slightly unlucky. So we see like a very strong Art of War turn here from the Zen.
Yeah, this is obviously some kind of like half commit from the Zen where they've made strides but not traverse yet, which in a way is almost scarier.
Yeah, it's a good play.
Where now you have to survive potentially 2 insane turns rather than just kind of the one where if Fleshbag's good on that particular turn, if something goes your way, then you just don't have to worry about another huge push like that. But obviously this player is spreading it out. And also on the Talishar tech, was this something that you were aware of going into the event?
Yeah. I mean, the person sitting across from me is literally one of my best friends and teammates, Jonas. And he is unfortunately probably the Zen player who has played the most games into Levia maybe in the world. So slightly unlucky there. But yeah. He knows exactly what I'm doing as well. Like, as I'm doing the defensive Art of Wars and stuff in the second here, he knows exactly what I'm cooking. Pretty. But yeah, maybe we can go a little bit ahead. Like, so what happens here is he's gonna chase the tail, and I'm gonna flashback it. And then I'm thinking about command, and I'm thinking about aspect of body. Because aspect of body prevents the extra tiger value from chase the tail. And command obviously lets me still send my powerful Blood Rush Bellow 10 that I've set up in Arsenal right now to try to do this comeback. Yeah. Problem is, I don't hit the aspect. He still gets to do the thing, and little do I know he has 2 commands in his hand. So my flashback literally did nothing. I intimidated one of the 2 commands. He puts the other in Arsenal. He was already going to do that. It's horrible.
Oh no.
Yeah. So this is kind of like sets the stage for the desperate situation that I find myself in.
Mm-hmm. And so
then there comes the command.
Right. So this is one of the situations where you don't have Husk in this matchup, but Zen at least is like running CNC at minimum for you to get 6 value on. Sometimes like a Bonds on an Art of War turn or something, you can also get pretty decent value of Husk. Is this where you kind of do consider running Husk at all, or you absolutely stand by Sash?
No, Sash is way better. Like you'll see, it's I mean, having Husk here doesn't win me the game. Like
sure.
Husk maybe it doesn't do enough. Like I need both. I need not to get CNC'd here, and I need to have the Sash to do the powerful turn. So
you just needed Fleshbag to just line up in a better situation. I see.
Yeah. I mean, you'll see. Like what happens. So I end up waiting a couple turns before sending it here. A little bit in the tank here. Maybe we can save some time on that. It's like. And then I send the Art of War, banish, draw 2.
Right.
Just so block it.
Your deck does run Diabolics. So in a way, it's not as much of a Hail Mary where you are always assuming you give 2 cards. There's even like the ideal outcome of potentially
true.
With Diabolics,
But I will have to say it doesn't matter. Because at this point in the game, I will not attack him anymore until I kill him. Because if I attack him and he gives me traverse, he will get me in the block lock, and I'm gonna be screwed. So at this point, I could pitch a card here. I think I have Blood Rush Bellow in my hand right now, and red Graveling Growl in the arsenal, and I'm not gonna claw with this Blood Rush, obviously.
Right.
But even later, when I have a different card in hand, I never claw here, just to give him not the head value, and then whatever bad hands he is going to have to draw for me to win this game, I cannot afford to fix them with the headpiece.
Right. Yeah, of course, sending a Blood Rush to the bottom just for a claw anyway, you wouldn't see it in this kind of aggressive matchup, so it makes a lot of sense. Just hold it regardless.
Yeah.
Well, there's a Blood Rush in Arsenal, right?
No, here's not the Blood Rush in Arsenal.
Oh.
Here's the Graveling Growl in Arsenal, and here I choose
you have the Graveling
Art of War, Defend from Arsenal, because my hand was Art of War, Barraging, Beatdown, Blood Rush Bellow. Horrible hand, obviously, but I think I made the best of it, like blocking from Arsenal and getting the Blood Rush now finally in Arsenal, and hope for this miracle next turn.
Mm-hmm. No, that's pretty heads up. Cycling out. Now you've got your power card where you want it. Still denying the traverse value. It's just a question of, is that one Blood Rush good enough to present lethal when this dude's at 24 with so much block still on the team?
Exactly. It's, I mean, I'm not saying it's going great, but like, I'd rather win it 1% of the time than 0. So.
And this is the 3rd CNC back to back. Oh,
yeah.
My Lord.
He's really bullying me here. But you'll see his face, like going from, look at this smiling. Like he will be in severe shock in a second here.
This is one of the perks, though, of Scabskins. At least is, well, I guess without Husk, it's not necessarily just more block than Hooves, but covering breakpoints like a 7 feel nice.
By the way, this was blocking with 3 cards and just passing the turn, right?
Yeah. This was blocking 3 cards, passing the turn. Yeah.
So it's 3
because
turns.
I could have clawed. 3 turns, and I took 1 blood dead every turn, just bleeding a little bit, and this is where it happens. Mm-hmm. He goes Bittering Thorns. I'm like, damn, if I let this hit, do I have to blick the next one? And I'm like, no, he's going to Talisha after. I'm going to block and stay alive. And the reason I block both equipments there and stay at 2 is because some of my outs include drawing an extra Blood Rush and then discarding a Beast Within, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. That's a heads
up. So yeah, I sent the Blood Rush, and this is where the miracle happens. almost happens, I guess.
Yeah, 2 to 24.
Spoilers.
So it definitely.
And
will take
Jonas,
longer.
Jonas really helps me out here as well by consistently discarding the best card. Like first he gets the Endless Maw, then I draw another Blood Rush. Yep. Sending it immediately. There's nothing to think about.
Also, he's not really at 24 because he has 6 blocks on his equipment,
Oh
right?
yeah,
So
of course.
Yeah. So there's another Endless Maw. Perfect.
Oh baby.
And that's the third one. Let's
Yep,
go.
This is the draw I remember.
now you can see Jonas looks slightly worried.
Yeah. And he discards the command, which is huge. I'm like, yes, let's go.
Mhm. So your hand is what? Swing Big, Dread, Deadwood, and Boneyard. 3 red, 1 blue.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
so. Yeah. Okay.
And then that's exactly why I also will have to roll this turn. And I'm like in the tank a little bit of when am I going to roll. But this spot, and I may end up making the correct decision, is like you roll immediately. Because I will have to roll at some point anyway. And if I roll a 1, I will lose anyway. So I might as well roll now to have the maximum information available.
Does your turn
So
never sequence in a way where you can at least lead with Dread? I guess your graveyard at minimum has 4 misses that we've seen. Oh no, what, like 6?
Yeah. No, if I, yeah.
Oh, God, it's like 8 actually. Okay, no.
Yeah, there's a lot of misses. There's a lot of misses. But I will roll anyway for the upside, like because I could go Screamer, but like it's not gonna win the game. Like I will always roll after the first attack at the very latest. So because if I roll a 4 here, I will do Crack Sash, Screamer, Swing Big, Boneyard.
Mm-hmm.
And if I roll a 2, I will have to contempt with Claw, Screamer, Swing Back, which is 3 less damage, right? And there's a lot of outs I have here. Like if I drew it another blue, I win the game here. If I roll the 4, then eventually I roll. Like I'm thinking about, of course, a lot.
Oh.
Roll it off screen, and there's only a 2.
So is it? It's not deterministic that you win the game, though, right? Even with the blue draw, because what you've got, it would have been 4. Oh, it's actually triple Blood Rush, right? So 14.
Yeah, triple Blood Rush. It's 9/9.
Oh, actually, yeah. Yeah,
It
especially
would have been 9/9, and then you get to Crack Sash, play Screamer, and play the 1 cost.
Yeah. Okay, sure.
So that's how much is that?
We're looking at
12.
Yeah, 12 plus 12 plus 9 plus
24
42
plus 18.
Yeah,
Yes.
42 damage actually would be deterministic win. That's actually insane.
Yeah,
Okay,
that would have actually been it would have actually been on the dot.
I mean, as it turns out, if I dealt 1 more damage that turn, it would have already been enough, because he would have only got to keep 1 blue in hand, and his best turn would have been only Talisha at that point, and then maybe I win. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Which
depends on my next hand.
Yeah, which you at 2 is still. I mean, that you give 1 card and you get to play the game still, which is a great spot to be in.
And he's actually doing the smart thing here of making
this instead. Yeah.
So if he doesn't do that here in this situation, then he also doesn't get to keep a card, right?
Yeah.
Gonna block
because his total block value in his hand is like he has a Gust Wave, the chi that he made the Zen State token with, and then like the Sacred Art, I think. Like his 2/2 blocks.
You can you're also not deterministically winning, by the way, even if you roll the 2 here, because you could still miss on the Screamer. if you roll.
Yes. I might miss the Screamer.
Fear's the mind killer. Stop saying it.
I was still unlike
that's the whole point. Is like the whole point is you want to put yourself into a position where you can win.
And this is funny. I a little bit I troll Jonas here a little bit by spreading them out, and then counting them, and then saying, "Yeah, just pick 3."
Okay, we got the hit.
Got the hit.
But still, so this does cap.
This is basically over.
Yeah. This does cap out your damage. just already. So do you consider on this next attack just throw the Boneyard or pitch for the swing big?
I'm pitching for the swing big.
Pitching for swing big, even though you need to turn off Blood Debt or you die going forward?
No, I did. It was Screamer.
Right, but for the next turn cycle, right?
Oh, okay.
Keeping a way to turn off Blood Debt in Arsenal.
I'm not really thinking there is a next turn cycle if I attack for 2 less here, I think.
Okay.
That was my problem. I guess keeping the Boneyard is like a nice out to keep 1 blue, roll for a 4 and send 9 and turn off Blood Debt. That is, yeah.
I always look for... That's my... When I do run Scabskins, honestly, that's the line I go for the most, is like an early game Slitherpede with Claw or the Boneyard. Like, it's just too obvious to otherwise miss that value of a 2-card 9. But yeah, so actually I'm interested to see... So obviously he lives here, goes to 1. So if you throw the Boneyard instead, he doesn't have to give you an extra card, in theory. Is the difference to still end up at 1.
Which neither of them matters because he has the 3-card nuts. He has Bonds in Arsenal, a Gust Wave in hand, and that's always gonna kill me here.
Yeah, okay, so even the Boneyard in Arsenal like wouldn't really change what happens here.
This just
because it's
lethal
2 break
straight
points
up.
that come through. All right. Interesting.
And I also have 1 Blood Debt, so going to 1 there and passing also kills me, right?
All right, Max. Next up, we've got a clip of what you deem to be how Ilias lost you your first place at National. So what exactly happened in this turn cycle?
So essentially what it comes down to is a misunderstanding in the preparation and just simply my inexperience with the deck. So what we talked about earlier when I was learning the deck, that it is if you have a turn where you have both Blood Rush Bellow and Out of War, it is better to have the Out of War be the arsenal than the Blood Rush Bellow, because then you don't risk discarding it, and also like the condition for the Blood Rush Bellow is harder than for the Out of War. Like the Blood Rush Bellow needs an attack that is also a 6, whereas the Out of War just needs an attack to work, right? So, and for one reason or another, I had in my mind saved Out of War is the best arsenal. So I end up in the situation here after actually casting an Out of War that I just naturally drew in with a Shadowpede, which is ideal. I end up in a situation where I have the option to arsenal a Blood Rush Bellow or an Out of War. I have both of those cards in my hand. So obviously, it is much better to have a Blood Rush Bellow in your arsenal. However, because I had this thought in my mind that Out of War is the best arsenal, I end up pitching the Blood Rush Bellow and Arsenal in the Out of War. I then draw up my next hand and I'm like, Blood Rush Bellow would be pretty good here. And Out of War is kind of bad. So yeah, after talking, of course, to Ilias, later on he was like, no, what have you done? That was not the right play. So and like looking back on this game, I think there's a good chance that I still end up losing this because he drew really hot. He played very well, and I end up drawing into a 4-red hand later on. But I think there was at least it would have put me into a position to set up to have like a fighting chance, whereas with this play right here, I essentially just lose the game on the spot, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think there's also potentially some thought processes that other Levi's might get caught up with where, oh, look, you're pitching a Beast Within next to a Blood Rush. Like, isn't that some synergy points? But it's the KO matchup.
Yes, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't.
You're never getting there.
Exactly.
You never get there.
Exactly. Even at this point in the game, you've already played out a whole turn cycle where you didn't ramp up any Blood Debt, so you can't even really go for the line of, oh, maybe I can turbo banish and like get to that hand. I think it's pretty obvious like already that that's not going to be the way this game plays out. And your opponent, like you said, even off of this no block turn, they really did play hot. They drew hot for the entire run. Yeah.
But I think really this is just kind of a situation where if I had like another week of preparation with this deck and practice, then I would have kind of been in that same or similar situation at one point, either with people backseating me or playing it myself, and then afterwards asking like, hey, that felt kind of weird. Why are we doing this? And then people would be like, no, obviously that is a mistake. You should just the Blood Rush Bellow is just a way more powerful card. You should Arsenal that if it's between those two. And then I don't think I would have been in that situation. But hey, that's just how it is. And I think David is a very deserving champion. So I'm happy with that. So.
All right, guys, that has been a bit of a Levia masterclass from the value vampires, which is fitting. Vampires are very, demonastery-esque creature, and Levia is big and purple and covered with spikes. It works, I think. But I wanted to say thank you personally to each of you for joining me on this. I know it took a bit to come together. There are all these secrets brewing of the list specifically, and we were waiting to see how Ilias would perform, and of course he did fantastic getting fourth. But now that's it. Now nationals are over, and we're putting this out there in the wild for everyone to learn from as we approach the new-ish metagame with the Bolton deck at Amsterdam. So with that, Max, any final thoughts on Levia? Any last shout-outs?
I think no thoughts specifically on Levia.
Okay.
Just huge shout out to all of the value vampires who are not on this screen right now, but also a huge shout out to the ones that are, because those are the guys that actually helped convince me to play the deck, and then also teach me in a short amount of time how to do it to a decent enough level to win a couple of games. So. Thanks a lot. And yeah, Value Vampires is the best team. And you're going to see us at the top tables, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. The winner's metagame just is the Value Vampires.
Is the Vampires.
So it's just Levia then. Everyone just has to prep to face Levia. Okay. I see it. Ilias.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much to add. I want to shout out, the Vampires as well, especially Yorick and Jonas, who just played German nationals with me. They were really putting me through the grindstone with smashing my head in with Zen 100 times. So I think it helped. And yeah, see you in Amsterdam.
Let's go. All right, Laurin.
Yeah, also shout out to the whole team, and also to my local friends and the guys from Team Never Lucky. And yeah, I can only encourage everyone at home to try out Levia. Embrace the variance. It's not as bad as a lot of people say. The deck is really strong, and it's been like the last few months have been the most fun I've had playing Flesh and Blood since I started. So thanks for having us, Ethan.
Yeah, that's so good to hear. So you heard it right from Laurin's mouth. Don't listen to me. Listen to these guys. I like that advice as well. I'm so washed these days. But thank you so much for joining me, guys. This was a treat, and hopefully you all learned as well. And with that, we'll see you in the next one.